Welcome to the Soul Art Podcast. I'm your host and guide, Will Caminada, and it is my mission to help you become more in touch with your soul, expand your consciousness, and shine your light brighter and brighter so that you can live a life with more purpose, inspiration, and love. My intention for this show is to create a safe place where you can find support and guidance on your spiritual awakening and healing journey. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome back to the Soul Art Podcast. I am very grateful and honored that you chose to listen to the Soul Art Podcast once again, or not if you're completely new to the podcast. Thank you. In this solo cast episode, I am going to share with you my healing experience with the plant medicine Ayahuasca. And this is in reference to the previous episode 11, The Deeper Layers of Healing. And in that episode, I came up with 10 layers of healing, starting with you, your parents, and your ancestors, all the way to the collective and the cosmic beings. If you haven't listened to that one, I recommend that you do so either before or after this one, just so that the whole concept gets clearer. Basically, on that episode, I share the 10 layers. And in this episode, I will share some of the experiences which helped me reveal these layers of healing. Also, I am splitting this episode into part 1 and 2, just so that the episodes don't get too long, and also because I had 2 ceremonies. So in this first episode, this first part, I'll share the first night of the ceremony, and part 2, the second. Now, before I get into today's episode, I just have a small favor to ask of you, and that is to take a moment of your time and leave a review on my podcast on Apple Podcasts. Because when you do this, you help me reach more beautiful souls and help fellow humans to expand their consciousness. So please make sure you hit the subscribe button in whatever platform you listen to your podcasts so that you never miss any future content. Right, just to make things very clear, I want to add a little disclaimer and a friendly warning right here. So first, I am not in any way, shape, or form promoting ayahuasca or any kind of psychedelic or plant medicine or any institution whatsoever, nor am I saying that everyone should try this to heal emotionally. This is literally me just sharing my healing experience with it, the same way that I share my healing journey through meditation, breath work, and etc. So if you feel inspired, curious, or anything, the first thing I recommend you do is do your research. And obviously, feel free to send me any questions through my website or my social media, mainly Instagram. And the friendly warning is that I will share here today very personal things. What I will share here may sound a little bit out there for some, or a bit woo-woo or too esoteric, because obviously it's a psychedelic. So the emotions and the visualizations, the things that I experienced can sound very foreign if you've never had any kind of experience like that. On the other hand, if you've had this kind of experience even with meditation or breath work, you will resonate with it. But all of that to say that listen to this episode with an open mind, most importantly with an open heart, because this life is so mysterious. But I believe that we do have access to higher dimensions and deeper states of consciousness, even without any plant medicine, simply with our breath. But this is a topic for another episode. Today I'm here to talk about my ayahuasca experience, which was last year, 2019, around this time, end of November. So I went to Peru with my boyfriend, and neither of us had gone to Peru before or gone through a ceremony of ayahuasca. And basically, we were booked to do 2 nights, 2 ceremonies. We stayed in a very rural area of Peru near Cusco. A beautiful place, beautiful landscape. The place we were staying was very rustic, very humble, but it was truly the real experience of living there with the people from the village and the shamans that, by the way, would actually come there from the jungle, especially for our ceremonies. So the first night for me, I would say it was my life review, this lifetime as will. And that is the first layer I mentioned in the previous episode. The healing starts with us, always. And bear in mind, I'll say this not to brag, but by the time I did the ayahuasca, I had been doing a lot of inner work. And I was aware of a lot of my traumas and fears and blockages. And I had been consciously doing this inner healing work, especially around the loss of my dad when I was 8 and the repression of my sexuality for a long time. So self love and self acceptance were already big lessons for me. And so, what I felt ayahuasca did for me was a review of what I've been living and learning thus far. And at first, I felt a lot of love, so much love in my heart, and so much gratitude for this life and for this experience. And I felt the energy of Mother Earth like never before from the very beginning, all throughout. And I would say this is a characteristic of ayahuasca because obviously it's a plant, so it carries that Mother Earth energy. I also felt my Kundalini super active. More in the beginning of the session. I had my Kundalini awakening a couple of years before, but this time I just felt it super active. And the shaman, who, by the way, also drinks the ayahuasca brew, he keeps chanting what they call Icaros. So the shamans are like guiding us and pushing us to go deeper with these chants and obviously with their energy. And I felt my spinal cord literally move like a serpent, but it was as if the movement was in me and not me consciously telling my brain to move, if that makes any sense. So at some point, I was taken back to my childhood, and here's where I'll say what the main difference was for me compared to my previous healing experiences with meditation and breath work, because I have done many visualizations through meditation, gone back to the same scenes, to some of the traumatic or most painful scenes in my life. And I have also released a lot of emotions, a lot of stagnant energy through breath work. But this time I was actually feeling the exact emotion as if I was an 8-year-old. I didn't see anything, I didn't visualize anything, I just felt. It was so strong, and I was sobbing just like that little boy. And I remember I kept thinking, why, Daddy? Why did you leave? And I simply couldn't understand. It was that same feeling that I had when I was 8. And even though I know now from a conscious adult level, I understand why everything happened the way it happened. But at that moment in the session, I just couldn't. And so I just kept crying. And I remember the shaman just kept singing louder and louder. He was also throwing some smoke and some kind of spitting, which I'm not really able to say what or why, but I remembered that was a moment that he just kept going, almost like guiding me or protecting me. I don't really know, but yeah. However, once this has this had gone through, I felt my heart opening so much, so much, like I think like never before. And all I could feel was love and gratitude again. And I had a sense of clarity and a sense of strength. And I usually hear voices when I meditate and do breath work, but this time, again, it was more of a sensorial thing. I could feel the energy in my heart. My chest was tingling. And I just had this inner knowing that everything happened in divine order perfectly. So that I could become the person that I am today. And I guess it was around this time that I started feeling like an animal, a feline to be more precise. So my movements, my breath, the sensations on my face, on my nose especially, it was as if my eyes were becoming a puma's eyes, the animal puma. And I later found out that they do have pumas around that area in Peru. I felt super calm and super confident. That was the energy I had. And it was as if my strength was in my energy and not in my figure and not in how big I was. And that's when a huge bull showed up in front of me in this visualization. And I remember I, meaning the puma, I wasn't scared at all. And I just stared at the bull. And with my gaze and energy, simply with my gaze and energy, I managed to scare it away. And I remember feeling really powerful and confident. And that's what these animals represent: inner strength, confidence, powerful intuition. So, towards the end of the session, I was feeling a lot of tingling on the whole left side of my body, which is the feminine side. And I knew instinctively that I was healing the feminine energy. Maybe my feminine energy or the collective, or both. I also felt the pure embrace of the unconditional love of Mother Earth, and that was so beautiful. I felt so loved by Mother Earth and protected. And the message I got from her was, "You are all protected." It was so beautiful. I literally felt at one with her and with all there is, really. And it was this deep sense of oneness and unconditional love. But Mother had another message for me, and that was something I really needed to hear because, like I said, that time I was aware of self-love and that I really needed to love myself and accept myself unconditionally. And the message I got was something along the lines of, self-love is only complete when shared. Meaning, if you're loving yourself, but you're keeping it all to yourself, then that's half of the game. So take that love and love your fellow humans and everything else around you. And I remember crying because there was so much love in me, all around me. And I also remember just throwing my arms from side to side as if I was like spreading and giving that love to everyone. And that's when I started thinking of all the people that I love in this lifetime. So all in all, the first night was really, really special. I did not purge. I didn't get sick or anything, so I felt good afterwards. But wait for the second night. And there wasn't any revelation per se, other than mostly more of a confirmation of what I'd been learning and becoming aware. And for me, the biggest takeaway was how intense the emotions felt in my body. And so, again, I would say that that's the main difference for me between some of the healing experiences I had through meditation compared to the ayahuasca experience. And also, I would say the ayahuasca like boosts your experience. You might quote unquote get high, or go on a trip inside of yourself a little bit faster than if you were doing a meditation in your bedroom with music or nothing. So, all right, that was part one. And if you want to continue listening to the experience, tune into the next episode where I'll share the second night of the ayahuasca ceremony in Peru. And for now, I just would love to know if you gained any insights from what I shared in this episode, and if you had to do a review of this lifetime, what would be the main lessons for you? What animal would best represent you? I'm throwing some prompts here for you. And what do you think Mother Earth would say to you? So these are my questions for you. If you had to do a review of this lifetime, what would be the main lessons for you? What animal would best represent you and why? And what do you think Mother Earth would say to you? Connect with me on Instagram at Guiwill, Guiwill. That's where I'm most active and present. But you can also contact me via my website or subscribe to my newsletter at www.willcaminada.com. I'll leave the links in the show's notes. And if this episode has brought you value, please subscribe to my podcast and take a screenshot of it, share it to your Instagram story, and be sure to tag me so I know that it's brought you value and your friends may benefit from this episode too. As always, keep shining your light, keep your heart open, and let love lead the way. I love you. See you in the next episode.